Hi there, and welcome to episode 4 of the Hub of Junior Golf. I am Ryan Burr, joined as always by the founder of the Junior Golf Hub, Roger Nick. And Roger, certainly college golf is a topic on everyone's mind. Conference championships were last week, and then moving into the NCAA championships in May. Going to be great both on the men's side and the women's side. We do have the head coach of the University of Florida, Coach Deacon, coming up on the show. He wins his first SEC championship as the head coach of Florida. Can't wait to talk to Coach Deacon, find out his secret sauce, if you will, as he has brought the Gators back to prominence in the SEC. Want to start with you, Roger, as we look at a lot of these conference tournaments, the difference between rosters and rosters makeup. Some coaches, certainly, if we've discussed in past episodes, going with more of an international flavor, some pretty much just United States based. And the one thing that stood out to me on the squads that are really US based compared to international when they are playing freshmen is their World Amateur Golf ranking. It does appear for sure in the United States that WAGR still is not a thing that our junior golfers are concerned with or really worrying about. Junior golf is still king in the United States. A lot of different organizations out there, a lot of different opportunities. Your expertise at the Hub and all those years in junior golf, do you think the United States does need to pivot, or it all works itself out once they get to college and the junior golf system is still the best way for American players to go?
Ryan, that's a very great, good question. And quite frankly, it's a loaded question, right? Because we know the state of American golf right now seems to be very strong. And we have so many kids who are matriculating into the college programs. However, you make a great point with the WAGR rankings. And one of the things that we're seeing for sure is that being one of the most looked at requirements, if you will, of these junior golfers that are not U.S.-based players, right? So, you know, we have traditionally in the U.S. been around JGS or AJGA rankings. And again, good, bad, or indifferent, it is what it's been. And I think it will continue to be that way for a while, because I think that's one of the things that parents just hear other parents talk about. And, hey, I'll do whatever you did because that worked for you. That mentality is not going to last that much longer when you start seeing these roster spots taken by international kids. And that's probably a really good question that we can ask JC when he comes on, as we're seeing, again, more and more rosters filling up with international students who play an occasional or a sprinkling of U.S.-based events. But quite frankly, their WAGR ranking is what is getting them noticed by some of these programs.
It's interesting. I won't give you the school, but I was talking with a college, not a Power 5 college. So think about this, Roger. Mm-hmm. This is a non-Power 5 coach, and we were discussing the recruitment of players, and he said he no longer looks at AJGA Rolex or Junior Golf Scoreboard. He only recruits off of WAGR, and if this was a school that my son ultimately wanted to play at, his only way of getting noticed would be by his WAGR ranking, because this school was no longer, now think about that. Let's be honest. It's a non-Power 5 school. And I mean, if he's only looking at WAGR, it's no surprise his entire roster is international.
No doubt. And we're seeing that more and more, Ryan. I mean, there is, again, talking to hundreds of coaches out there, it's just, one, quite frankly, if I'm going to be really, really honest here with these parents, the audience of our show, is it's easier for the coaches not to deal with the parents in the U.S., right? I mean, they're getting the international students, and they're getting these players here that want to play and are willing to do what it takes to play. Whereas, there's a lot of pushback from a lot of American parents when their kids go to school and maybe getting shut out when it comes to qualifying, or maybe not qualifying for the top 5 spots. So there's some resistance there for sure that I think sooner or later we need to wake up and smell the coffee here.
All right, Roger, I got to ask you on that. Yeah. I mean, the majority of our listeners are parents of junior golfers. We hear it every week from the gospel. We hear it from Conrad Ray. We hear it from Susie Whaley. We hear it from you. that the parents are actually determining that their kid is not being recruited. What has happened that I understand you want what's best for your kid, Roger. I get it. I've been in that seat. But, golf is not a sport where you're allowed to be coached during the game. How are these parents actually influencing to a negative, a coach deciding, you know what, I'm going to pass on that kid. His ranking's great. He looks like a great kid. He hits it wonderfully, but I'm not dealing with that.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's so many different angles to that, Ryan. And I'll talk about a couple. One is the barrage of people that contact the coach for them, right? One of the things that we're seeing out there, is the recruitment process is being undertaken by a third party, if you will. Parents are paying, in some cases, exorbitant amounts of money for these recruiters to help their kid get into a certain school, right? It may not even be a Power 5 school, but it may be a prominent school or a school. But the parents primarily don't want to see their kids not get recruited, so they hire someone and they take this stance of, hey, I want to make sure they get recognized, and coaches get inundated with emails and phone calls and things like that from friends, families, and third-party recruiters that, quite frankly, are making it very tough for the coach to say, wait a minute, I'm looking at the scores, I'm looking at the tournaments your kid's playing, I look at the withdrawals from tournaments when you're not having a good round, you're just not a good fit for our program. And he starts saying, or she starts saying as a coach, going, do I want to deal with this every week when that kid doesn't, make the cut or doesn't qualify and is on the bench for, a year or two, right? Because he's going to continue reaching out. These coaches now are reaching out to the portal as we know, and finding players who've already played at the college level or already been, successful in some cases in some of the schools and still looking to transfer, right? So I think that's one of the big things that us as parents, again, as you said, we all want the best for our kids, but sometimes we just need to let the talent speak for itself.
Obviously, you've been doing this a long time. You've seen how the recruitment game has changed over the years. This portal has massively changed recruiting. As you said, a college coach now has the option of taking a player that has played 1 or 2 years at another university, that has lived on their own, that has traveled to collegiate events without mom or dad along the way. Do you see an age where the portal is actually being recruited more heavily than junior golf?
Wow. I don't know. That's probably a great question for our guests coming on. But I certainly, hear it resonating throughout the coaching, world, if you will. I think parents are starting to recognize that and probably getting a little bit nervous about it. But at the same time, I think it's a few years away in the golf space. I do believe that, NIL may be actually influencing a little bit of this because, some school may, or a player may have, a good sponsor or something like that, and maybe use that as leverage when it comes to, if you're going to recruit me or not recruit me, or you want to keep me here, versus recruit a high school kid. So it's a great question, and I think it's to be seen. I don't know if it's going to change forever that way, because eventually, talent is just going to get better. I mean, let's face it. I mean, the talent pool that's out there now in junior golf is extremely good, and it's deep.
The one thing I've always said about golf that is different than football or basketball or baseball from a coaching standpoint is your score is your score, man. Like, you can't say the coach doesn't like me, or, he doesn't like the way I shoot basketball, so he has me on the bench. I mean, golf qualifying is what it is. And with that, we welcome in the head coach of the University of Florida, J.C. Deacon, who, by the way, is now for the first time in his career the head coach of the University of Florida and the SEC champion. So, Coach, welcome into the Hub of Junior Golf podcast. Let's start with this week on Sea Island. You had a great team. You've had a great fall and a great spring, but that's happened before. How difficult is it in the SEC to win that conference championship?
Well, thanks for having me, guys. I'm not going to lie. Those are some of the sweetest words I've ever heard in my life. This was the tournament that I wanted the most. Jeremy Foley, the athletic director who hired me at Florida, I promised him when I got the job that I was going to win him an SEC title. And it took 9 years and 8 tries, but we have, I know I'm a little bit biased, but the SEC is the best conference in college golf. I just don't even think it's close. And that tournament is so insanely hard to win on that golf course against those teams in those conditions. And for our guys to do it in the way that they did was literally a dream come true.
Coach, you've been at Florida now, as you said, 9 years going on 10. You've got a lot more gray hair and a couple kids in tow as well. How have you changed? And looking at your roster, really from your first year on, Florida has always gotten great players. Coach, you've always gotten awesome players. I'm curious how you've changed putting a team together over those 9 years. Do you look for a different trait? Are you more concerned with chemistry, or is it still give me the 5 best and I'll put them out there?
Wow, you're and getting emotional listening to you ask that question, because I had Jeremy Foley, I'm bringing his name up again, but he called me after we won, and he kind of took me through my timeline here, and he just said he was so proud of me because of those things. The amount that I've changed in 9 years is incredible. I'm not even the same person. And you mentioned the gray hairs. I definitely don't even look the same, but I'm not even remotely the same coach. I think one of the best things about being a coach at the University of Florida is you get to be around all the other coaches at the University of Florida. And Tim Walton, Roland Thornquist, Mary Wise, there's so many, Mouse Holloway, there's so many legendary coaches here who have taken the time to help me grow my skills. And to answer your question, I mean, when I got here, it was talent acquisition was the only thing that I was interested in. I think we were ranked 82nd or 83rd in the country the year before I started, and we just didn't have the talent that you need to compete in the SEC and at this level. So, we were able to put a great class together, which was, Sam Horsfield and George Garcia and Gordon Neal and Kyler Tate and Blake Dyer. It was great to get that started, but I have realized that it does matter, and you have to build a team, and you have to find the guys that can handle this spotlight. And Florida is just not for everyone. It took me obviously a while to learn that, but if you play well here, you get a lot of positive attention. But if you play poorly here, you get a lot of negative attention too. And some people just have a harder time handling that. And we look for the guys who are ready for it and want that. And I think we've kind of found our niche. And you still got to be a great player, but I think the mental toughness and the ability to put in the extra hours and time is what we're really truly looking for. The guys who have a love for the game and can only see themselves playing golf down the road. Those are the guys we really want to have here.
Well, Coach, that sounds amazing. And again, congratulations. Well done. And we see your teams. Obviously, these players are going to, like you said, they love the game. You can see it. It's obvious when they're playing. And for the most part, I'm sure most of them want to move on and play at the next level. But as you, without giving away your secret sauce, and maybe you just did a little bit, but what are when you're recruiting, let's call it a junior player versus maybe a player that's in the portal, what are you looking for? What are 2 or 3 things that you go, I know that's the kid? You say talent acquisition. What are those things that highlight for you the talent acquisition pieces?
Well, you're definitely asking to give away some of my secrets, which probably you asked how I've changed. This is one of them. I think 3 years ago, or even 5 years ago, definitely I probably would have lied to you guys right now and not told you the truth. But Mike McGraw at Baylor has always told me it's part of your responsibility as a coach to give back and make those who are coming after you better. So I will give you an honest answer now. When we're recruiting, I think you got to have speed. Unfortunately, I hate that's a prerequisite to playing at this level, but you just got to be able to hit it a certain distance, and it's going to improve. You're 18 to 22 in your time in college, and we spend a lot of time with our strength and conditioning program. Marcus First runs that for us and does an incredible job. So it's going to get better, but you've got to be at a certain level speed-wise. And then I think one of the biggest things I look for is the ability to go low. So I like a player where I see 65, 78, 67. That's a random answer. But if I see that type of pattern, that's a player I can help. And I can turn that 77 in that second round into a 72 or 73, and all of a sudden you got an All-American right there. So I think the ability to go low and shoot in the mid-60s is, I think that's a talent that I think is overlooked sometimes. It's I remember myself growing up when you get to 4 under for the first time, it's like, oh my gosh, how do I just get this in the clubhouse? And some kids have an ability. Yushin Lin, Fred Biondi on our team is a perfect example. Fred came in and he'd shoot 65. You're like, where did that come from? And he had a lot of 78s and 77s and 76, which killed him. But we've trained that out of him and taught him how to make those bad rounds better. And now, you see the 65 still from Fred, and then he makes them count when the off days are 71 or 72. So the ability to go low, some speed. And then the last thing, and I think is the most important, is we clearly define how hard it's going to be at Florida. And you're going to have 10 to 12 teammates on your team who are probably just as good as you that are going to beat you in qualifying. And you're going to get beat. You're going to get put in your place. You're going to have some really tough days. And we think that's a positive. We think that helps you grow up as a man. But you got to be able to expect that and embrace that adversity along the way. And if guys understand that, Matthew Kress is a perfect example, who's a redshirt freshman who literally won us the SEC championship this weekend. I told Matt on 5 different occasions, dude, you don't want to be here. Like, you're not good enough to be here. These guys are going to crush you. You're going to feel it. And he just kept coming back, Coach, give me a chance. Give me a chance. And we took a chance on him because he wanted it, and he's been everything that he promised and more. And he's the one that wins us the title. So it's I think our formula is getting there. It's not perfected yet, but we're close, and I'm so proud of the guys.
Coach, certainly in your tenure, the biggest change is probably the NCAA rules. I had a college coach, Power 5 college coach, call me the other day to go over names in the portal and get my expertise on those players. There are coaches that are recruiting the portal more than they are junior golf. Now, when I look at Florida, and this is the word culture, I am a sports guy. I've spent a lot of time with Coach K at Duke as he went to the U.S. basketball team, and he instilled in me how important culture is no matter what walk of life you're in. I don't understand, Coach, so I don't understand how you can redshirt guys in a day and age of the portal, in a day and age where guys are just leaving at halftime and going and playing for the other team the second half because it's available now. How do you convince guys to redshirt, not play an entire year when they were clearly a great junior player, and wait their turn at Florida when other schools are having guys leave right and left because they missed qualifying one time?
Well, it's a fantastic question, and that's certainly the day and age that we're living in right now. I think my it goes back to my last answer, is we just clearly define it in the qualifying process, or in the recruiting process, that this is what your career at Florida is going to look like. And if you don't want to be a part of this, that's fine. It's just not for everyone here. but you're going to come here. You're going to get beat. There's going to be tough times. There's going to be missing the lineup. There's, I think Ricky Yushin, maybe Alejandro Tosti, definitely Sam Horsfield. There's a handful of guys who have played in every event in their career at Florida. It just doesn't happen. John Axelson, who from great player from Denmark, who we had for 3 years. He's on the European tour now. He got his card already out there. He's a phenomenal player. He missed some events, and it's just going to happen. So we warn them in the recruiting process, and the guys who pick this, they're probably a little messed up mentally, which we like, messed up in a good way. They want that adversity. And every time that someone comes in my office and is down or complains, we just remind them, dude, you signed up for this. We told you that it was going to be like this. This is why you wanted to be here. And I know it hurts right now. I know you don't feel good. You don't feel like a great player. But if you embrace it and take it the right way, it's going to make you tougher. And most of them get on board. And I mean, honestly, too, we're very, very lucky at the University of Florida. I sometimes when our guys are getting soft, I call it the University of Florida Country Club, because their lives are so good here. They got 5-star meals all week long. The facilities are the best of the best. They got brand new Pro V1s down there on the range. I mean, life's pretty good, even if you're not traveling. So I think a lot of our guys have bought into the development piece. I think, that's what you see. Matthew Kress has played 3 regular season tournaments in his first 2 years here. His 4th event in the lineup was the SEC championship, which he won. And Matt he wanted this. He wanted to get beat by the Rickies and the Yushins and the Freds. And he knew that was going to make him better, and it did. And we're obviously SEC champions because of it. So, but yeah, I love young people. I believe in junior golf, and I remember my days, and we're going to continue to recruit high school players and try and develop them. That's never going to change for me, and hopefully it continues to work.
Yeah, Coach, that sounds amazing, and it sounds like you're creating a great culture and environment there. And one thing that really stands out to me that you said is the development, right? And I think so many parents and so many junior golfers who are elite players think that it's a means to an end to get to college. And I think what you're saying there by this environment that you're creating of development and saying, hey, this is going to be hard. Hard things are hard, right? You got to do those hard things to be successful in life. And you're creating that culture, that environment there that's going to bring these kids who want that not to be a means to an end to college, but they want more than that, right? And I think that's what you're really inspiring in these kids. I think that's very inspirational. I think it's great. Love hearing about that type of environment for these kids, and they know it's not a means to an end when they come there. So it sounds like that's what you're really getting out of these kids, or young men.
Yeah, and I think, they're kids when they show up here. I promise you. And and a lot of the decisions and actions reflect their kids, but they leave as men. And we had 5 men in our lineup this week and I'll tell you what, that's one thing I've stole from Scott Limbaugh, he's the best coach in college golf, and it's not even close at Vanderbilt. And Scott he's a great friend of mine, and we talk about coaching and our philosophies and stuff all the time. And Scott uses the word men all the time, and he wants to have men in his lineup. And that's going to school. That's getting your work done. That's turning your homework in when you're tired. That's making sure no assignments are missed. That's having to stay up all night doing school and getting your butt up and being the best teammate in the gym the next morning and putting that work in. That's never complaining. That's taking adversity and spinning it into a positive. It's all those things that's what men do. Boys complain. Kids don't show up for things. Kids don't turn in assignments. And when you can become a man, that's when you're going to start to see the results and be ready for this type of stage. And that's Dudley and I's job. We've got to take an 18-year-old kid and turn them into a 22-year-old man. And I take a lot of pride in that, when these guys leave the University of Florida, whether they're going to play on the PGA Tour or they're going out into the business world, they're going to be a man and be ready to do that. And that's a big deal for me.
Well, Coach, congratulations again. I know the work is not done. The journey is only half over. Certainly a giant step ahead of you guys in the NCAAs in May, winning the SEC. You know you're heading somewhere really good, and certainly one of the favorites. I know last year just missed out on match play, so let's take it a couple steps further this year. And, Conrad Ray set the bar here, over 1 million views on this podcast. So we assume, Coach, you're going to hit 2 million. That is always the goal. But thanks for your time today. Best of luck in the NCAAs, and congratulations again.
Thanks,
Ryan. Thank you so much for having me. Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Care, Coach.
Okay. Bye.
A lot to digest there, Roger, certainly.
Wow.
I find it really interesting when someone believes in their culture like that and is willing to take chances. The first thing that stood out to me, he does not seem interested in the portal, does he? He is a junior golf guy. He wants to take the kid at 18 and understand that 19 and 20 are going to be tough, but if they can get through 19 and 20 when they're 21, 22, they're going to be ready to do what he wants to do, and that's win.
Yeah, and quite frankly, the players are going to be ready to do what they want to do too, right? I mean, I think that is a great environment for any young person to be in development, and it sounds like he's doing it right, and they want to continue doing it right, and I think they'll continue to be successful because of it. I think hopefully the parents out there heard those things, because I think that's incredibly, great stuff, right? I mean, it was great stuff to say it is hard. It's going to be hard coming here. Understand that it's going to be hard. And I think sometimes parents think it's going to be easy for their kid to walk in, because they are, they're the big fish in the small pond, and they get there and they kind of get their butts handed to them, and, and start, going, well, I want to go somewhere else. And, it's not always the right answer. But I also think as a parent, sometimes you don't want to see your kid, struggle. And so you try to, hey, well, let's find the right spot for you. Let's make it easier for you. And that's just not life. That's not reality, right? There has to be some adversity to overcome.
Give us some tips here, Roger, and I'll be the first to hold my hand up and say guilty. I am 1,000% guilty of being that parent that the night before a junior tournament packed the bag, packed the golf clubs, made sure that everything was in the right spot, put it in the trunk, and that morning of the tournament, the kid only had to literally get out of bed and get in the car. Breakfast was ready in the car. The bag was packed. I did everything. Looking back on it, it was a giant mistake. Roger, how do you tell a parent when all they want to do is help their kid and put them in the best environment to play well? But how do you tell a parent that doing everything for the junior player is only hurting them?
Yeah, well, as a coach, it's very easy, right? At the end of the day, you want these young people to grow up and be independent thinkers. You want them to be advocates for themselves, and you want them to be sustainable, right? As a parent myself, I think, to your point, Ryan, sometimes that's hard, but I would say my son, Michael, who is, helping us produce this show, will tell you a little bit about, I think he knows he's got to do his job, right? I mean, he wants to play. He needs to do the things he needs to do. And I share that with every parent. I share that with every player that I've ever coached is, you know what, if you don't show up with your stuff, that's on you. That is your responsibility. And I think parents, again, to your point, really want to help and only love their child and want to be there to support them. The best thing they can do is love them, say, hey, I hope you had fun and enjoy that, round the golf, and get them there, right? And pay for it, right? Because that's what we do as parents. But I think, again, taking a step back and letting the kids pack their bag, letting the kids forget a few things. I mean, I'll share a really, really fun experience, not for me, but, and not for the families. But we had a young player, very, very talented young player. We were going to play a major junior event in the Northeast. And we do. We as a coaching staff will send out, hey, here's the things you need to pack. Be prepared, right? And we send that out, a week in advance, and then we send it out as a reminder before we go to the event. Lo and behold, we show up, and this particular player shows up, no golf shoes, no rain gear, no yardage book, things that you would think that, hey, that level player and all of our players are prepared to play. And he calls his parents and go, oh my God, you got to get a pair, I got to get shoes. And the parents called me and said, hey, can you go do it? I said, nope. This is what needs to happen. He needs to learn from this. So he went out and played in his sneakers, no rain gear, no yardage book. And he actually, to his credit, he played extremely well under the conditions. Guess what? He's never forgotten golf shoes, golf balls. He's never asked his parent to pack his bag again. So those are things I think, you got to learn as a junior golfer, and you got to learn as a parent to just, let them, drive the bus. Obviously guidance is helpful. But the kids have got to want it. I think JC said it again. We heard it from Conrad. They got to play for the love of the game. And when kids do, they're always ready. They're always ready. There is no, hey, I forgot this or that. No, they're ready because they just want to go play. They want to go compete.
Well, that was a great lesson, I'm sure, learned. And as you said, it only takes once to show up without your sand wedge or your putter. Yeah. And that kid will not make that mistake again. Yeah. Roger, certainly the best tool in junior golf to help your family and help your child be prepared is the Junior Golf Hub. Let's tell our listeners and viewers the easiest way to go about getting the hub and how they can, at an introductory level, how they can start using the hub for scheduling, for coaching, for college recruiting.
Absolutely. Go on juniorgolfhub.com, log in, use the code JRGOLFPOD. That'll give you free access to the Junior Golf Hub. Click on, create your profile, get started, start searching for programs and finding tournaments in your area to get started.
Awesome. Episode 4, I think we have delivered, certainly thanks to Coach J.C. Deacon, the SEC champion with the head coach of the Florida Gators. Can't wait to get to episode 5 and 6. We have some huge plans coming our way, so keep watching, Roger. The Hub of Junior Golf continues to be the source for everything you need to know about junior golf.